plus for Spurs that Dyer was able to come back. I wasn't expecting him to play. I didn't see that he was going to be ready. I'll tell you what was a really nice touch from Guardiola, which might have gone underplayed a bit, is the starting of Phil Foden. Because it's not.
He scored the goal.
Yeah, but it's nice for the. But what I mean is, it's quite nice for the fans after the week they've been knocked out of the Champions League to see a youth team prospect play and score and go, actually, well, you know, future might be a bit brighter.
Sure.
I think it's a nice political move.
I think they're all right, sitting pretty at the top of the road.
De Bruyne
They're not at the top of the league.
They're
Liverpool
not,
are top.
they're not, you absolute fucking prick.
At that point, they were, Luke Moore.
Right.
When they were enjoying that match,
And now
they
we're,
were.
Now we're on Monday.
Right.
Yeah, switch on.
Go to the hospital and see Jim.
Well, then there were only 2 years.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a point.
Would it be quite a good return if Man City win the rest of their games and rack up across 2 Premier League seasons 198 points?
I think you know the answer to that. I think
Is that higher than what Pardew got at Newcastle?
Yeah,
Fifth. They got
much.
5th that time.
Yes, pre-ramble recording, we were talking about that season in which Newcastle.
And then Pete started crying, so we had to move on.
Okay.
Because he's so confused, Marcus, because of the heady days, but also the hatred for the manager.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Yeah.
You finish 5th under Pardew, but it was under Pardew.
And we stopped the conversation when Pete mumbled under his breath, I wish I could quit you.
Indeed, yeah. Well, Man City, I mean, that's twice now they've beaten Spurs in quick succession, I suppose. They won 4-3 and 1-0, so they're definitely a better side than Spurs, which will make it hurt even more that they're not in that semi-final. But the domestic treble is on. Pep was full of praise, as usual, for his players. But I thought it was really interesting the game played out because it was an incredibly nervous affair for some of those.
Ederson was very good, wasn't he?
Ederson was brilliant as he is.
Yeah.
But I thought to myself, this is interesting because I remember what you were saying last week, Luke, that Man City would be like, right, sleeves up now, boys. Let's go to town.
Well, it's because what happened last season, they knocked out the quarter-final and they just rinsed it.
Exactly.
I thought it'd be the same.
But I think it was interesting that it was Spurs so soon after going out to them. They come back and they're like, oh, blimey, we are beatable, even though they didn't lose the game. But, you know, we're not indestructible. The quadruples there's all that kind of stuff. They seem to be in a bit of a haze. Now, they scored early, which you think would settle it, but it didn't. Now they've got over that game. That was a bigger psychological barrier than perhaps we thought.
Oh, big challenge for them on Wednesday playing Man United.
Yeah, well,
listeners can't see the face.
like I said, I thought they would beat Spurs. I didn't think it would be that close, but I thought they would. For me, it was more Burnley away rather than Man United away.
Yeah, you've got a real claret in your bonnet about this
You
Burnley
genuinely
game.
think that's going to be
because I didn't think Man United would propose too much for Manchester City.
I mean, I don't think they will either. But I mean, we'll come on to Man United in a short while.
Yes.
Yeah, you've got to still be wary. It's still a derby game. Man United still got some good players. Solskjaer was still fuming, so you can't completely rule out a reaction from them.
No.
Is Solskjaer fuming a bit funny?
Yeah,
Do you know what? Do you know what? I've suddenly realised they've got to play Leicester. Rodgers' revenge.
Revenge.
I didn't think that.
Imagine if Leicester.
Tell you what, don't roll the. Oh,
imagine if Leicester are
Is that
about
a
to
plot
beat Man
thickening?
City. Beat Man City, right? It's the penultimate game of the season.
Where's Morgan slips?
Brendan Rodgers slips when trying to give the ball to Leicester for a quick throw-in on a counter-attack.
Yeah.
And it mucks it up.
The plot does. There's some definite plot narrative cornstarch going on, getting added to this.
Absolutely, yeah.
Rodgers' revenge.
Wow. Yeah.
Don't rule it out, ladies and gentlemen.
No.
Do not rule that out.
I thought Pep was really, really nice about Phil Foden, about how he actually said, I didn't have a young player as good as Foden when I was in charge of Barcelona, which is heady praise.
Play him
then.
It's also not true, Peter.
I know. Pep does occasionally talk shit, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was lovely to see Phil Foden.
Can Phil Foden go a whole playing career where instead of appearances he just gets compliments from the manager?
Yeah, exactly.
How long will that realistically sustain him?
Does he get
when
in
he's
his contract?
31?
In his contract, does he get like compliment bonuses?
Yeah, when he's 31, Pete, and like the manager, whoever it is, then is going, well, you know, Phil, he's one of the best players I've ever had. And meanwhile, Phil, in his 15 years at Man City, he's racked up 14 appearances.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know. He could be like an estate agent by 31.
But Guardiola said, we all could be. Oh, I couldn't be.
No, I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, but Guardiola said at the start of this season we are going to be treating Phil Foden as part of the first team squad, as a senior pro, senior player, and he's going to be picked on merit. And you can't really criticise him Guardiola because obviously they're doing very well,
and he's behind some very talented, expensive footballers.
But when he comes in, he makes a contribution. I thought it was politically a very good move to start him.
Yeah.
I thought it was a perfect time to start him purely because they've had a bit of disappointment. Clearly, because he's a young player and he's really talented, and a lot's been made of him, and also because they lost Sancho. The fans love him and they want to see him do well. And he comes out, and for him to score in 5 minutes, at that point you think, well, Man City are probably going to go on and win this game fairly comfortably, as we predicted. Didn't work out like that, and credit to Spurs for that because they had a bit of a scratch team. And if you look at the benches between both sides, like you said after the Champions League game, I mean, it's absolutely staggering. But they did win the game. And if they, the simple fact is, if they win the rest of their games, they'll win the league.
Of course, it was a ballsy thing to do, though. In a very important game, on paper, their hardest game. Minus that Rodgers revenge one, they've got to play. You would expect Man City though to win the rest of their games.
Well, the United one's the big one, isn't it? If they win that, you think it's probably going to be done.
Yeah, although we have highlighted that second to last one against Leicester.
But you have highlighted.
You have highlighted. That.
You've highlighted Burnley and Leicester now.
Yeah,
you've got City down as finishing fourth.
The thing about obviously Pep and City and obviously Liverpool, who are going toe to toe. Liverpool have to show such steel and sort of single-mindedness because they're always playing catch-up. Because Man City, for the last two matches, have played first, so it's like, right, there you go. Pick up the gun. Do what. Get yourself 3 points.
Yeah,
it's so tense for Liverpool.
It is.
I found I don't really know why, and it probably says more about me than anything else. But I didn't find the Man City game against Spurs anywhere near as tense as Liverpool against Cardiff.
Sure.
Until Liverpool obviously scored.
Yeah.
And then you realised Cardiff aren't really going to be able to do anything.
I thought it was going to be goalless at half time, and it was Cardiff and Liverpool.
Do you know what would be interesting is if Liverpool won the Champions League and Man City won the league, they'd both feel slightly unsatisfied or dissatisfied.
They're both amazing teams.
No, but that's what I mean, though. If Liverpool won the Champions League and failed to win the league, don't get me wrong, they'll bloody have a good old party up in Liverpool about that.
Yeah.
And if Man City win the league, obviously they'll be absolutely delighted with that. But they would look at each other and go, we'd rather swap.
Swap.
Because Man City, ultimately, they wanted to win the Champions League this season, and Liverpool need to win that.
But isn't it weird, like Luke says, like
you can't always get what you want.
Isn't it weird what Luke said? That
or what you need.
The Man City match didn't seem quite as nervy, even though they scored in the first 5 minutes, and then they were just the Spurs were coming at them, and obviously the goalkeeper had a lot of work to do. But Liverpool, it was so much more tense in that particular match.
Yeah. Especially given that Liverpool were playing a far inferior side. Yeah.
Cardiff were very defensive in the first half. But
let's talk about Liverpool-Cardiff.
We're on there. What was Sean Morrison doing with that header?
I think he lost a flight. I'm being generous. I think he lost a flight of it in the sun. It's the only explanation.
It has to be.
Well, half of the pitch was covered in sun, and the ball came from that direction. The only explanation, given that everyone in this room could have scored that.
Yep. You say that because Jim's not here.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, Jim's ill, so he wouldn't have got off the bench to score it.
But you wouldn't have been at the training ground because you would have infected the other people.
Indeed. The only explanation it must be that he lost the ball. I mean, you can understand. He's always got to connect. If there's not an ulterior explanation, he has to put it over the bar. He has to. Sometimes it even comes off the shoulder, but to come off the back, so which means he's basically missed the ball by about 10 inches. Means he must have lost the flight of it.
Yeah, I mean,
can I just say I was fuming, not because I hate Liverpool, because I love the drama.
Yeah,
I'd love to see him equalise to see what Liverpool are made of. You know,
but especially as Liverpool missed a fair few chances before they went 1-0.
Firmino's chance was a big miss.
You know, Salah as well. But they're top of the league with 88 points.
I mean, if and this very idea, and hopefully as a football watching bunch of people, I don't mean us three, but I mean the wider football watching community. Hopefully, as a group, we've got over this idea that any team out of Liverpool, Man City are going to, in quotes, bottle it, because Liverpool could get into a situation where they get 97 points and lose one game this season and not win the league. I mean, it's very. They can be forgiven for turning around and saying, "What more do we have to do?" And the answer would be probably get 2 more points. But you know what I mean. They've done amazingly well, brilliantly well.
88 points is an incredibly impressive tally.
It's even
if they didn't
record.
win another game for the rest of the season.
It's Liverpool's Premier League record. Like it's just already.
Well, taking into account the adjustment for 3 points for a win, only in 1978-79 and 87-88 have they performed better than this.
Right.
What's fascinating is that they were awful. People listening don't need us to tell them that. I mean, let's just call it a general rule. Yeah. When Theo Walcott adds a fourth, you're probably not having the best day at the office. Yeah. So we get that, right? But what's fascinating to me is the idea that Solskjaer appears, all the noises coming out of the club, all the people who are much more connected at the club than we are, seem to be taking the line that this will not stand from the players' point of view. There's no blame being applied to Solskjaer. There's no fan turning on him because they like him. That, to me, says that the Man United players might get a bit of a short, sharp shock when they report back to training because they suddenly, all of a sudden, hang on a minute, we can't really get away with seeing another manager off here. So what's going to happen? To me, it's a hugely... I get the idea that they're going to blame the players, but to me, it's a hugely brave move to say to Solskjaer, assuming no director of football comes in, which of course they might, but if they don't, to say to Solskjaer, yes, the team needs to be rebuilt. Yes, there are some bad eggs in this squad, and we are going to rely upon you, by the way. We know you're a great player back for us in the day, but you are a guy who's managed at Mulder, who's failed at Cardiff City, and we are going to put you in charge of rebuilding the playing personnel of the biggest club in England. That, to me, is a huge gamble.
Well, of course, but anything... So what do you think they should have done then?
Well, not hired Solskjaer in the first place.
So you think a more, like Arsenal did with Unai Emery, somebody like that?
Yeah, I think if you are going to hire someone who is going to be of that type of profile, you need to have a rock-solid administration above him. You need to have a very seriously experienced director of recruitment and football.
He's got Mike Phelan.
But I said at the time it was a free hit for Manchester United. But the only problem that happens is, what if he does really well? Mulder's going to want his manager back, and Man United can't exactly have Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in there. But why do it now? Why make that permanent decision now? Why make that permanent appointment now?
Because there's no one at the top of the club making good football decisions, is the answer.
But, well,
it's being run by a commercially minded, commercially successful
that's why
guy in Ed Woodward.
Well, that's why they've got players who basically sell shirts rather than actually perform, and that's why they've got... Because defenders aren't sexy. That's why they got the same back four that they had.
Paolo Maldini was very sexy.
But like 7 years ago.
If you mean when you say sell shirts as a more of a sort of buzzword for increasing their worldwide... Yeah. Then I agree with that.
That is a
I agree with that. But the idea though, Pete, is that I would say the reason Arsenal eventually plumped for Emery instead of Arteta was because they realised that Emery's a vastly more experienced guy and he could probably take a lot more of the heavy lifting with him and his team around things like recruitment because he's hugely experienced and he's dealt with big players. Solskjaer's got no one above him, not no one. And I can't for the life of me see how a club the size of Man United, who... By the way, you can say all the rhetoric you like about how Man United should be competing for trophies, by which I mean Premier Leagues and Champions Leagues. Well, we're just seeing you're going to have to get 95 points plus to win the Premier League now. That's the fact of the matter. And they are absolutely miles away, and they're miles away in the Champions League.